What people casually call low IQ behavior is often less dramatic than the insult makes it sound. It is the same small loop repeating every day, reacting before thinking, taking everything personally, turning neutral moments into tiny courtroom trials. The nervous system learns a baseline, then treats ordinary life like a trap. That somatic anticipation becomes behavior. Not memory, not philosophy. A reflex wearing shoes. When the environment keeps yanking someone around long enough, the body stops asking, "What is happening?" and starts screaming, "Protect yourself, idiot." Cortisol keeps knocking on the door. Hyperarousal becomes the weather. Executive function gets crowded out by emotional noise. This is where practical reasoning starts looking bad from the outside. The person interrupts, blames, denies, doubles down, repeats the same avoidable mess, then acts shocked when the room gets tired. It is not impressive, but it is also not random. It is dysregulation pretending to be personality. You can usually see three patterns. The first is the reactor. This person treats every inconvenience like a personal attack. A slow cashier, a short text, a harmless correction. Suddenly their face changes, their voice tightens, and the whole room has to survive their emotional weather report. Their brain is not processing context. It is processing threat. The second is the repeater. Same mistake, same apology, same bad decision dressed in a new shirt. They do not learn from consequences because the lesson never fully lands. It hits the ego, not the operating pattern. So they defend the mess instead of reading it. The third is the social bulldozer. This person cannot feel the temperature of a room. They overshare, interrupt, mock the wrong thing, miss the tiny facial cues, then complain that everyone is too sensitive. No. Sometimes the signal was obvious. They just walked past it holding a marching band. These are maladaptive survival schematics. Crude, rigid, exhausting. And once they harden, they run automatically. Here is the uncomfortable part. The same habits that once protected someone from embarrassment, rejection, or chaos can become the exact habits that keep ruining normal adult life. The reactor thinks every comment has teeth. The repeater treats consequences like bad luck. The social bulldozer mistakes volume for confidence. In a low-threat room, those patterns do not look like survival anymore. They look childish, rigid, socially expensive. The old defense is now creating the new problem. And that mismatch is brutal, because the person usually does not experience it as a strategy. They experience it as just who I am. That is where maladaptive patterns get sticky. Because once a person starts internalizing every correction as proof that they are stupid, wrong, hated, or permanently behind, the whole self-image starts rotting from the middle. A small failure does not stay small. A missed cue becomes people always reject me. A bad decision becomes nothing ever works for me. A simple disagreement becomes everyone is attacking me. It is not reasoning anymore. It is emotional evidence laundering. And yes, this can make someone behave in ways that look painfully low in practical intelligence. Not because they cannot think at all, but because their thinking keeps getting hijacked by shame. Shame is loud. Shame is sticky.
And
Shame
now,
walks into the
moment
room,
you
grabs the
dreaded,
microphone,
the truth
and starts
laid bare
narrating
for
every
all
event
to
like a
see.
personal
This
tragedy.
shame is
So the person defends nonsense, avoids feedback,
This
argues
isn't
with reality,
validation, it's just
then wonders why life keeps handing them the same receipt. The data is not cute either. Repeated developmental stress, unstable environments, poor modeling, and chronic emotional dysregulation can raise the odds of problems across health, relationships, work, money, and decision-making. The pattern spreads. It does not politely stay in one drawer. It shows up in the body, in the calendar, in the bank account, in the tone of voice, in the way someone handles being told no. But this is not destiny dressed in a lab coat. Neuroplasticity means the brain is not a concrete sidewalk. It is more like a trail through grass. Walk the same route every day, and the path gets obvious. Change the route long enough, and the old path starts fading. Slowly. Innings. But actually, that is the part people miss. These behaviors are not fixed moral identities.
as
They
we
are
trace the
reinforced
reinforcement
loops.
loop.
And loops can be weakened. The daily version is where it gets painfully obvious. There is no lion in the room. No disaster. No flaming meteor coming through the ceiling. Just a quiet pause. A text that says, "Okay." Someone not laughing at the joke. A coworker asking, "Can you clarify that?" And suddenly the whole system starts acting like the village just saw smoke on the horizon. The face gets defensive. The
No,
voice gets sharp.
absolutely.
The explanation gets too long. The person starts performing innocence before anyone even accused them of anything. That is neuroception gone feral. The body reads tiny, neutral signals as danger. Silence becomes judgment. Feedback becomes humiliation. Someone else's boundary becomes rejection. A calm room becomes suspicious because calm does not feel familiar. So the person creates noise just to make the emotional temperature match what their nervous system expects. This is why some people cannot let a small thing stay small. They poke it, reopen it, retell it, send the extra message, make the joke with a little poison in it, ask if you are mad, then act mad because you answered too slowly. It looks irrational because practically it is. But underneath, the system is trying to solve a threat that is not actually there. That constant false alarm burns through emotional regulation like cheap paper. After a while, even basic adult situations start requiring dramatic amounts of energy. A normal conversation becomes a battlefield. A mild correction becomes a public execution. A delay becomes abandonment. And the person calls it being real. No. Sometimes it is dysregulation with a catchphrase. Then comes the weirdest part. People often recreate the exact emotional rooms they claim to hate. They say they want peace, then choose chaos with Wi-Fi. They say they hate drama, then keep feeding it little snacks under the table. They say they want respect, then test everyone until the relationship becomes a courtroom, a wrestling match, or a group project from hell. That is repetition compulsion in everyday clothes. The nervous system is not chasing happiness. It is chasing familiarity. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar calm because at least the body knows the script. Who is mad? Who leaves? Who explodes? Who apologizes? Who pretends nothing happened? And when the amygdala hijacks the room, the present gets overwritten. A partner's tired face becomes an old rejection. A manager's neutral note becomes a childhood scolding. A friend's boundary becomes proof that nobody really cares. The body drags yesterday into today and acts shocked when today starts bleeding. This is why practical intelligence is not just knowing facts. It is being able to update, to notice when the old map no longer matches the street. Some people never do that. They keep using expired emotional directions, then blame the world for having new roads. And yes, it gets ugly. They sabotage calm, misread kindness, punish patience, confuse intensity with loyalty, confuse stubbornness with strength, confuse being offended with being correct. But none of that makes the pattern mysterious. It makes it predictable. A nervous system trained on threat will keep finding threat, even in rooms where the only monster is an unread message and a bad attitude. So the real shift is not becoming some polished, inspirational productivity goblin with a morning routine and a glass bottle full of cucumber water. Please. The shift is simpler and harder. The system has to stop treating every old reflex like sacred truth. A feeling is not automatically a fact. A defensive thought is not automatically wisdom. A familiar reaction is not automatically personality. Sometimes it is just an old survival loop banging a spoon on the table because nobody has taught it that the war is over. And if this sounds uncomfortably recognizable, that is the point. Not to shame it, to name it. Because once a pattern has a name, it stops being a ghost in the walls. It becomes something visible, something trackable, something that can eventually lose power. Subscribe if you want the kind of psychology that does not pat nonsense on the head, but also does not pretend people become this way for no reason. Because the behavior may be ugly, but the blueprint is usually older than the behavior.